Good afternoon. My name is Maria de Mar Figueroa. I'm a PhD student at the Department of Microbiology and Medical Zoology of the University of Puerto Rico Medical Sciences campus. My thesis project, mentored by Dr. Adelfa Serrano, is focused on the development of new potential antimalarial compounds, and I will be the moderator of this session together with Dr. Felix Rivera. First, we want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend this mini microbiome symposium, and we hope you have enjoyed the previous sessions. Before we start, I would like to give some technical instructions that will serve to familiarize with this session's dynamics. All the participants who are in the session will be able to listen and view the speaker and moderator, as well as the presentation of the speaker. All microphones and webcams from the attendees of the session are not visible, so during the questions and answer session, attendees interested in asking questions and appearing next to the speaker of the session will need to press grab the mic at the bottom left of the screen. The production will grant access on a first come, first served basis. And there's also the option to writing questions directly in the chat. An important disclaimer is that the content of this session and all the other sessions cannot be reproduced without prior authorization from the organizer, which is the Department of Microbiology and Medical Zoology of the University of Puerto Rico Medical Sciences campus, and the production Vistas a la Ciencia. Now that everyone knows how the dynamics of the session are going to work, we can start this panel focused on tips for a successful graduate and postdoc career. This session will be led by Dr. Joel, Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Santiago, and Dr. Godoy. And to learn a little bit more about the panelists, I would like to briefly introduce each one of them, starting with Dr. Janelle Gerillos. Dr. Gerillos works with environmental biology and bioinformatic analysis. He completed his doctoral degree at the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus, and currently Janelle is a guest researcher as an APHL postdoctoral bioinformatics fellow at the Division of Parasitic Diseases and Malaria at U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta. So, Dr. Dorlos, maybe in the future we can collaborate since I'm doing my PhD in malaria research. So nice to meet you officially. Now on to Dr. Joel Gonzalez, which has a Master's of Business Administration degree from Copeland University. He's currently a Process Development Senior Associate Scientist with over 10 years of combined research and industry experience, giving us enlightenment in not only the academia, but also in industry to enrich this panel. So hopefully he can get to the panel on time. And moving on, let's talk about Dr. Gilberto Santiago. Dr. Santiago completed his doctoral degree focused on the molecular evolution of dengue viruses in the University of Puerto Rico School of Medicine. And now he leads the molecular diagnostics and research team at the CDC Dengue Branch Laboratory here in Puerto Rico, giving us insight from a national public health point of view. So thank you, Dr. Santiago, for taking your time being here. And last but not least, and to finish with a flourish, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Filipa Godoy, which has a doctoral degree from the University of Puerto Rico Rio Piedras campus. And also, she did a postdoc at the U.S. Department of Energy Joint Genome Institute. Currently, Dr. Godoy is the president of the AAAS Caribbean Division, and she's the chair of Microbiology and Medical Zoology Department of the University of Puerto Rico Medical Science campus. And speaking as the permanent graduate student, Dr. Godoy has done an excellent job, and she's been an amazing, hardworking woman. I think everyone knows that. And now, without further ado, I turn the session over to the panelists. The screen is yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to excuse Joel He's really doing his best to enter the session, but he's having technical problems with his computer. He's like going in and out, going in and out. He's really trying. I hope he can attend. I already have his slides, so I was trying to gather the slides and so he can enter with his cell phone and talk to us. Um, oh, he cannot use the cell phone because it doesn't allow. Around the world does not allow cell phone. Yeah, it has to be computer. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, thank you so much, Marimar, for your introduction. Um, please come, Marimar. You're the moderator. Come here. We want to see you. We want you to ask questions and yeah, stay in the panel. So as a
Well, the first question. As a graduate student, I really want to know around. Well, we're here speaking about graduate school, postdoc opportunities, experiences. So my first question can be, what time should a graduate student start searching for a postdoc opportunities? Because I think we are not really oriented about that, or at least personally.
There was a little bit of echo on the sound there.
Your microphone my microphone is muted. You know, say why? I don't know why. Okay, let me check. Okay, good.
Mariama, yes, please.
Yes. Around my question was, around what time should a graduate student start searching for postdoc opportunities?
That's a very good question, and I think a graduate student should start looking for networking or building networking opportunities, taking advantage of networking opportunities every time they can. Every time they attend a meeting, every time they attend the conference, every time they get to know the people, it's very important to establish that relationship in since day one, because that will strengthen the relationship day one with the mentors that you can have in the future. If they know you by hand, they know you they know you by first name, by last name, they know your work. It gets easier then to establish that connection when you get to that point. If once you are at the point where you're like three-fourths of the way in your thesis work and you're starting looking towards your career is, then it's time to actually formalize a more in-depth relationship with those people that could be possible mentors for your postdoc work or your next job that you want to look into. So start from day one, building the connections, and then when you're further away in your career, the issue is that sometimes when you're throughout the years of your thesis work, you might find yourself learning about different fields, or different positions, different kind of job lines that you can apply for that you didn't know that existed when you first started. As you explore your way into that world, I mean, you're going to see that your interest may change, and you keep yourself open to all those new opportunities.
yeah, I
Thank
agree.
you very
I,
much.
wa- I wanted to add something to what Gilberto just said. Uh, for example, in my case, I started looking for my postdoc grant when I was in my last year. I was already planning my to graduate, uh, and I started writing a proposal, which was a continuation of what I was doing for my PhD. uh, and that also involved, although I had a new mentor and my aim was to be at the DOE and do stuff on biofuels and work with the green jeans guy. That was, that's what I wanted, but I also wanted to involve my PI because it made sense, right? And because we established a very strong relationship as student mentor. So I think that's one of the, before just thinking of a postdoc, I think it's important to nurture the relationship between the mentor and the mentee, because mentors have to be also sponsors. And I always tell this to my students. A mentor is a good mentor when he sponsors his students. So a mentor talks good at you when he's on the same room, but a sponsor talks good about you when you're not there, talks good about you when they're with other people, right? People that can, make your career or not, right? So that's important. That's important to establish a good, strong relationship of loyalty with your mentor, so that it permeates through your career. I was lucky to have a great woman, a great inspiration, Maria Gloria Dominguez. She was my mentor, and she still is at some in some ways. We collaborate together. We have a personal relationship. So I think that's important to have a good relationship with your mentor, and then ask for support. And of course, it's important to go to meetings and rotate with other folks' labs, learn new techniques, so that forgot your name. Sorry. As you just said earlier, I apologize. I was blank now. Um, as you just said, I mean, it's important to go there and show your work. And when you go to present a poster and people see what you're doing, and start from day one, as you just said. But it's very good to invest in your productivity. And when you have a portfolio that is worth thinking about going further to a postdoc, only then you can convince people that you're a good team worker. And it's always important to have your PI support, because you're going to need a letter, you're going to need the feedback. So that's something that students have to invest in. And also mentors also need to work on this nurturing these relationships as well. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I forgot Gilberto. Sorry, I forgot your name momentarily.
Thank you, Dr. Godoy and Dr. Santiago. Yes.
I want to add to the statement of Dr. Gilberto and Filippa about what is the best time to start looking for postdoc based on my experience. I started looking for postdoc 6 months or 7 months before defending my PhD thesis. One of the most important things for a fellow, based on my experience, you want to be sure what you want to do after your PhD and what you want to do as a postdoc. Because I feel like postdoc, because during the PhD, probably you can do some things that you don't like. It's just a project that you want to do just to complete a grade. But when you are choosing a postdoc, you want to be sure that you like this and you want to develop a career on this. Once you establish that, and you have to be sure that you are going to defend your thesis, because usually, I don't know, for PhD thesis, always we think that we are going to defend in 6 months, but sometimes it takes more time. We want to be sure that you are going to defend in 1 year. I'm sure I will defend right now. 6, 7, 8 months, you can start Googling and look for your contact to where you want to do your postdoc, because applying for a postdoc, a good application. I'm here.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, we're here.
Truly?
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't know what happened. I'm back.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Do you hear me?
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
I don't know. I see a black screen. I don't know. I just reconnect. Yeah. So you applying to the postdoc takes time, and you cannot apply to a postdoc just to apply. It requires time. You have to write a good personal statement, and you have to require a good letter of recommendation from your mentor and professor. So you cannot go to the professor to waste the time. If you want to be sure that you are going to defend, I take minimum 6 months before, 1 year to 6 months before defending your thesis is a good time to start looking for the postdoc, because you can always apply, and we apply. Even the mentor, the lab where you want to do your postdoc, if the recruiter is not sure that you are going to defend, this could create conflict in recruiting you. You should convince these mentor to this lab where you are going to do the postdoc, that you are going to complete the PhD. So to respond to your question, I would say 6 months, 7, 8 months before, when you are sure you are going to defend the thesis.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
What was the question?
The question was around what time should a graduate student should start searching for postdoc opportunities, and
So
everyone
in,
was giving everyone's experience.
so in my case, when I was doing the PhD, I want to say that I didn't complete it because I went to the industry, but I was trying to find mentors for doing postdoc if I was going to pursue a career, like probably in my third year when I was working on the proposal and doing the papers. But in my case, I went to the industry, and that was something that I was also working on since my first year, trying to decide which pathway to go. To go.
Thank you. Then there's a question in this chat section from Dr. Maria Burgos. She said, "How can students find those connections? Where to go to start networking?"
Yeah, I was going to add to what Joel just said. I just want to I think it's going to end up answering Maria Burgos' question. There's other possibilities besides, of course, you can go to industry, you can go to being an editor in a journal. I have a bunch of friends in Portugal who just were tired of being faculty members and fight for grants. In Europe, it's even worse than here. So they just start working with frontiers in microbiology, or they start working with nature journals, uh, as editors. So that now they're reviewers and editors of journals. That's another option, right? But to go for these connections, you have to go to meetings. You have to convince your PI that you would like to go abroad, for example, to participate in international meetings, in national meetings. But first, start with your own institution, right? You want to be able to start making connections locally as well. And we have plenty of opportunities for students to present. We have the Society for Microbiology, which is a branch of the ASM. You have ASM meetings every year as well. We have ISME, and we have AAAS. We have a bunch of opportunities for students to present and also to start new and meaningful collaborations that can even get you further from Puerto Rico. And there also another thing that I would like to say for postdocs, you can also consider if your PhD work is really relevant and it's in the end you end up with new questions and more exciting questions. There's also the possibility of, before going to an international postdoc, that you work you write a grant with your PI for a diversity supplement or a K award, and you just finalize the work and get some more papers out before going to another postdoc or before applying to a research position. That's also a possibility. And there are a bunch of grants that the institution already has, like RCMI, Alianza. There's a bunch of grants that can allow students to write these supplements. It doesn't have to be a grant from the PI. So I think that's also very valuable. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. I think we don't have more questions on the chat, but I want to remember everyone that you can use your grab the mic icon so everyone can join us in the screen with camera and the microphone if you want, or you can ask your questions in the chat. I think there's Jorge Martinez wants to join us, so I'm going to mute my microphone and let the. Oh, I think it. Good here.
Hello, can anyone hear me? Perfect. So thank you all for your time for being here. I know this is an amazing experience. I'm learning so much. I wanted to do a quick question. Well, first of all, my name is Jorge Martinez. I'm a PhD candidate in biochemistry at the University of Puerto Rico Medical Sciences campus, just so you get a little background. So my question is, I'm still so if I'm not interested in academia as a long-term job, how important is it for me to do a postdoc or not?
So I can answer that because I have many people here that complete the PhD. In reality, it's not critical. However, it can provide you tools in terms of if you do a postdoc in a different area, maybe that gives you more perspective. But really, in the industry, what they want is experience. So for example, I didn't complete my PhD, but my PhD studies provide me the opportunity to work at where I am because I work at process development, purification, biochemistry. So to answer your question, it's not critical to have a postdoc to get to the industry. It's good to get the contacts, the networking, but you
And
can get
Joel,
there. Mhm.
my question
Yeah,
is kind of personal as well. So your wife is a microbiome scientist. She finished her
yeah,
PhD. She did a postdoc, and she's now in Amgen. So
yeah.
what can you talk about her experience being a PhD and a postdoc scientist? Uh, what values did she bring in to the company?
But she's a funny story because she had more trouble getting in the industry compared to myself. Because even though having a PhD is great because of the knowledge you acquire, but sometimes you are overqualified. However, here at Amgen, the quality department that she's here, that she was working, they wanted to get people with science background because the current staff that we have didn't know the science behind the product. So sometimes they start creating deviation, stuff like that. So they were looking for someone with a PhD in science. And my wife, as Filipa is mentioning, have a PhD in microbiome and did a postdoc in cancer. So for her was great, and she was able to be successful. She currently have a new position, and she, due to her science background, she has been performing very well here.
Yeah. So
Thank you. I actually have a follow-up question for Joel. So I am being mentored right now by Dr. Alejandro Toro from Amgen Juncos.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's my
I
boss.
wanted
He's my
to.
boss.
Yeah, I imagined based on your on your title, your work title. So my question is, he mentioned a lot of the same things you just mentioned. So my question right now is, where as a PhD I can get the experience that's valuable for the industry itself.
So there are programs that we are working on, for example, rotation programs that can give you the experience. Additionally, I think for me, the most important part, and from some of my friends that currently work with Alejandro, was that we had the network. We knew people during our PhD studies that were able to get to Amgen, so they recommend us here. So that's something that you should go for. Try to make the connections. And you have Alejandro, so you are in a pretty good position. He's the executive director, so and he's a very science person. So and you told that you have a background in biochemistry, so that's what we are looking here in the industry.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would like to add that there are other possibilities of aside from industry, and And of course, in the academia, it's also a government, and government also has a lot of opportunities where you can have different fellowships or rotations or different kinds of internships that you can do to get the experience, and you can get your foot in the door, and get some experience there and know the people, do the networking, and also get to know all the different career or the career path that you can join in to complete your PhD or to just explore as a PhD as well. And you don't need, it's not considered a postdoc as well. Just work, you just start working there. Period.
I just want to add something. I forget to mention that we really have some PhD that are brand new, in completing the PhD. And what they did was they just went here as a temporary worker to get the experience. So sometimes you have to take the risk to take a temporary position and then show your skills and your knowledge. And if you show that, they probably want to retain you. That's what happened with me. I started as a temporary employee, and I was able to get to the where I am. So
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorge, for your participation. And thank you to the doctors for the Insight industry. We have some questions in the chat. Kinil is a graduate student. She asked how master students can get the same opportunities in the industry.
so let me answer that again. So when I was doing my PhD, I was working also in the Environmental Protection Agency. And my mentor there, which is a microbiologist, Jorge Santo Domingo, he always told me, don't do the PhD, do a master's, because it will open you more doors and more flexible. So I think it will be easier to get to the industry with a master's, just because having a PhD sometimes get you overqualified. So as I was mentioned previously, if you have a PhD, sometimes it's better to start as a temporary work so you can get the experience, and that way you become more valuable in your resume. But a master's, we have here a lot of people with master. I have a master's also, and you can qualify for all the positions basically with a master degree.
Thank you, doctor. We have another question from. Hmm.
It's a very completely different experience. It's a completely different job, actually. And for working in the government, you don't have to. It's not required that you have to bring in your funding. You don't require funding to get into the government. You basically apply for different fellowship positions or internship positions there are, or training positions that are available for PhDs or newly graduated PhDs, and you submit basically paperwork as you're submitting. So like a job application, sometimes similar to that, but it's nothing nearly like for academia. You don't have to submit grant applications or anything like that. Usually the funding for your work is actually already there by the agency, the laboratory you're going to join in. So you will have all that to your disposition.
Yes, the application process between for the academia and federal agencies could be quite the same depending of the purpose. For example, I completed my PhD 1 year ago. I was applying for postdoc. I applied for CDC and applied for the academia also. But since the purpose was the same, because I was interested to do research in public health, specifically public health genomics, finally I get mostly more the same personal statement, the same process, the same kind of motivation, and finally I get the same application. But since at the CDC, like CDC, USDA, they have different purpose. Some of them are interested in doing some surveillance, constant surveillance, and where if you want to work only doing some specific stuff, not deep research, probably this will be different. Usually when you are applying for the academia, you should justify that you want to do research. You are interested to do research. This is why you are applying for this postdoc. And since I was applying for the same purpose at CDC, so I convinced them I want to do public health research. And I applied in Yale, the same, I want to do public health research. But I know all the postdoc fellows that was applying at CDC, They don't want to do research. They don't want just want to work, get this experience at EC, and after going back at the public health laboratories in different states to work as a technician, just to work just in monitoring water conditions, like a different aspect. It could be different. It just depending of your purpose, it could be the same and it could be different.
That is actually a very good point that you mentioned there, because people sometimes are not aware of the mission of the different government agencies. And the CDC is not, primarily goal is not research. It's not a basic science research agency. That's the job of the NIH. So NIH is actually doing more basic science research, and the CDC is more public health oriented. And a lot of the work that, or the research that goes on at CDC is oriented towards surveillance, or providing recommendations, diagnostics, or taking care of disease, not so much on the studying the function of a protein per se as the NIH might do. So once you go in, you have to keep that in mind, and so you can shape your applications to what kind of job are you willing to do.
I see that Dr. Yeah. I see so many good advice being given right now. Thank you so much. I see a couple of links that Dr. Keith Crandall, who is still with us now, he's sharing a bunch of links with job opportunities for BS, MS, and PhD level students. So take a look at that. And then I also see Juan Galan that wants to make a question. Hi, Juan.
Yeah. Hi to everyone. My name is Juan, and I was a previous student of Filipa in when I was doing my bachelor in microbiology. More than a question, I want to acknowledge what Joel says. I also am part of Amgen organization. I'm in quality division of it. I want to acknowledge the thing of science-based in quality. My experience of it after I graduated from master degree in biotech. I didn't have a GMP experience, right? I started as you as a temporary, and I think one of my biggest assets was being science based, right? I work with an enormous experience of colleague, like a 5, 10 years of experience when I was there, with zero experience in GMP, but knowing all the new tech, right, and the new knowledge of science. I have seen how at least Amgen is changing their view of their qualities, right? As you say, you can measure how a quality non-science based by the minimizing deviation or understanding, problem solving fast, right? But being science based, as you say, is the core of the industry, and most of our decisions are based on it. And in terms of the networking, I have to be honest, I didn't have that much networking when I came in the industry. I have to create this networking. I to have to create a personality, right? In terms of my organization, we are in ML14. We do formulation and filling. Um, I present myself as this science-based new employee, but that if you need it, I will impart this science topic. I know this most of this role is of PD, right? But I have seen how the organization is growing, with design-based culture in everyone, right? In terms of the networking, something funny when I arrived to the industry is that everyone knows each other, right? And I knew no one, like you have this experience where, where this, whether it was Pfizer, when it was Ethicon, or it was Bristol Myers Squibb, and so I'm like, they're like, wow, how they all know each other, and I know no one, right? And I would like more. Here comes the question, like how I can, me as a student, I can at least grab a bit of this network, because if we are talking about Puerto Rico, it's a bit easier. No, we are not territorial big, right? We are, in terms of geographical, we are kind of small, right? So it's easy, like I could be in San Juan but working in Juncos, as I'm right now, or being in San Juan working in Ponce. You see that it influences also in how we network. But my experience is that when I arrived to industry, everyone knew each other from past lives, from past work, and I didn't knew no one, right? I was too focused in science, right? Like not science, but the academia. And even though I did a master's degree in industrial biotech, um, I didn't have this networking, and it could be good, right? To promote this type of initiatives, like like to bring them from first hand to the students what they will encounter or what will be their opportunities, right? Because for example, I as I mentioned, I knew about the science, but GMP CFR 21, like yeah, I have seen it in classes, but you see, I have never enhanced them or make them uh, comply, you see. And it is, I congratulate you all for this initiative you are doing. But yeah, my question was this: how we can bring this knowledge or this networking, how we can incorporate this new student to the networking of industry also, right? Like to not be like me, like in when I arrive, I'm zero allies. I have to work myself very hard. Like I have to put myself as I'm the operator just to prove, right, to prove myself. I know not everyone has the same experience, right? As you say, as your wife has a different experience in entering in the industry, but I think we have a great opportunity in terms of making the experience of these students, right? At least they come with a background of what they will really encounter of it. So I congratulations and great topic. Thank you.
I'm in my phone because my computer didn't work. So I was just saying that I agree with what you're saying. When I was doing my graduate study, I didn't know anything about the industry. I was lucky that I was in a laboratory that I was able to know people that were able to get to the industry. And I work with people like Abel Baerga from biochemistry, which has experience in the industry. Has people, I know people in the industry and stuff like that. So I was able to get around and build the network myself. However, I think that yeah, we need to during our studies, we need to like bring knowledge from the industry to the students because we don't know about the industry. I always thought that industry was to press a button. I didn't know that we actually do science. And for example, Amgen here, we have to do a lot of science to to save a product. So and save millions of dollars. We have to do science to improve the process. And it's something fun. So I think it's something that we need to teach to the students that it is a viable option and that if you like science, you can be here and do science. In terms of opportunities, I think we are starting to create like forums and collaboration with university. I think last year we have people from different laboratories come to the laboratory and meet us and meet our work. For example, there are fellowships also that bring you to the industry. I was able to know about Amgen by having the AMP fellowship during my first 2 years. So I think we need to have more things like that, and us as a student, we need to talk and get feedback and try to make the connections also.
Yeah, and I think we're doing something wrong as professors, at least here in San Juan. We should invite you guys to be part of our process and to be hand in hand with students since their graduate studies. So in our seminars, which are mostly students presenting papers and discussing their work, perhaps we should be inviting Gilberto and Joel and Juan to give their experiences. And there's an opening next year for a division leader, or we should be doing that. So you gave us pretty much, I think something to start thinking about and to change things a little bit more, because we have to agree that not everyone's going to go to an academic career. It's not going to be easy. there's not going to be jobs for everyone. So definitely the industry is a great option, and students should be able to make choices that are supported by their peers. So definitely that's something that we should work at.
Mhm. And I think to add, we can get both together because here in the industry working in purification, if I was able to come back to academy, I think I would have been doing a PhD better than I was doing because I have learned so many science stuff in terms of purification and have a lot of tools that I didn't have in the academy. So I think when you're doing your PhD, maybe you can do like a couple of time in the industry and try to merge both because I think it's a good opportunity to learn more about and what you like also. So
Yes, I agree with those ideas. And when you want to foster those kind of networking with the industry, and as Philippa said, I think it is good not only when we are, even when we are teaching a basic class of microbiology. Now it is always good to try to invite some person in the industry. But I thought any kind of industry has a group of scientific community that can try to come to the academia, explain what they are doing, and the students could see what is the connection between the basic theory that is learning and what they are doing in the industry. And even in the classes that we are teaching also, we should not only teaching, we should try to organize some activities where we can go with our students and specific and local industry where they can see the process, they can see what they are doing, and probably they can say, oh wow, these things probably once I complete my master, my PhD, I could try to get them. So even in the classes, we should be able to invite people in the industry, give a 1 hour classes. Even in the graduate seminar, it is good to do a mixture between the academician and the people at the industry, and try to go with the student to the industry where they can try to learn what is happening. I think this is the 3 key points that we should try to bring to the academia, way to foster this kind of networking.
Also, we have to update our networking and do it online because, as we know, with the restrictions set by COVID, it has been difficult to do things in person. So maybe doing more events like this one could help doing more broad networking. We have in the chat Dr. Maria Burgos. She shared the ORISE is great place for government jobs. Eduardo Lemuel has a question. Eduardo Dosado, he's a PhD student. It's a follow-up question. There will be any postdoc positions at CDC Dengue branch? I think that Dr. Santiago maybe can.
That's always a yeah, that's a very good question. Positions at the CDC, even at the internship level or postdoc positions, at the at government and the CDC here in Dengue branch, it really depends on the yearly budget that the Congress assigns to the agency, how much money is there for the CDC and also for the different agencies or the different associations, for example, APHL or EID, the different fellowships that also different organizations that fund people for postdoc positions, for example, ORISE, ASM. CDC has has a partnership with ASM for have yearly postdoc positions. They have APHL positions. They come and go depending on the funding availability, depending on the year, and how many positions are there available. It also depends. Right now, unfortunately, the government right now is actually debating the budget for the next fiscal year, so we're waiting on that. The scenario that is being proposed, or it seems that there's going to be plenty of funding out there for new positions that should be able to open a lot no more research positions and no government positions. But we're still waiting on the resolution from the government, from Congress, to see what's actually going to percolate down to the dengue branch to open positions. So we always have to be on the lookout because funding appears come and go every time. Also, there's an epidemic. Fortunately, some of these are big epidemics. They bring a lot of funding, a lot of opportunity. For example, we had the Ebola outbreak in 2014. We had the Zika outbreak in 2016. Now we had the COVID pandemic, brought a lot of money, a lot of funding, got a lot of opportunities that open up when this happens. So we always have to be on the lookout. So always, bookmark all these websites for the CDC, ORISE, USA Jobs, APHL, all these agencies, all these different associations. They post out internship positions or postdoc positions all the time. So you always have to be on the lookout because they open up and they fill up very quickly. If we could lobby with Congress, we can. Unfortunately, by law, we can't lobby for that. But we're actually very optimistic that the new budget that is being proposed is going to bring up funding for both postdoc. We definitely need the expertise. We definitely need to grow.
Thank you. Now we have Dr. Crandall here.
I can lobby because I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'm not with the federal government. So I'm happy to lobby on your behalf, and I do.
That would be great.
I just want to reiterate this concept that there's so many opportunities in industry and government labs. And they often start with internships. So when I teach my bioinformatics class, both at the graduate level and undergraduate level, one of my assignments for homework is, one assignment is here's what a CV is. Start organizing your CV because that's what you need to start applying for these things. So make sure you have a good CV, that you've passed that CV past a number of peers to take a look at, get ideas from their CVs. I've gotten ideas from my students on some of the things they put on their CVs and link to GitHub pages and things like that I never even thought of. So it's a great opportunity for faculty and students to learn from each other and make as much of an impression with your CV as you can. But then start looking at internship opportunities. There are tons of them out there, and they're at all levels. I've had undergraduates do, freshman summer, sophomore summer, junior summer, and then in between their graduation and going off to a PhD program, do internships and each year at different places. And there are just all kinds of internships. Most of them are concentrated in the summer, but there are all kinds of opportunities during the year as well. For most undergraduates, the summer is the best time. But for master's and PhD students, it could be that during the year, if you can make that internship part of your research program, which often the companies are interested in, they want to publish, they want to collaborate with academic folks. So if you can get your foot in the door, it works out well for everybody because industry gets effectively a relatively cheap employee for a short-term basis to try you out. And if you do well, then they often hire you back on, right? As soon as you graduate. I've had even graduate students basically just finish out their graduate program in the industry position. I have industry partners who support PhD student positions in my lab because we have strong collaborations with these industry partners. And we've done enough research now together that they know that I have good students and that they're well mentored and that they are productive and cheap relative to what they would have to pay, what they'll have to pay them when they graduate if they want to keep them. So definitely keep an eye out for those internship opportunities. They're great opportunities to get a feel for what industry's like. And there are pros and cons to every kind of job, and it's hard to figure out what that looks like until you go there. As students, you get a lot of exposure to academics, and you know what that looks like, but it's harder to get exposure to the government research labs and to the industry opportunities unless you take the initiative, find opportunities, and go explore those opportunities. But there are some great opportunities out there.
Let me ask this question to Dr. Condor. I can ask question, right? Uh, this was in general aspect. You are professor of bioinformatics. What do you think? Do you think there is a bright future for a bioinformatician fellows that want to do a career in industry instead of academia?
I do. Like I said in the chat, 3 of my last 4 PhD students have gotten positions in either government or industry, and not in academics. I think industry is and academics. I mean, anybody who has a bioinformatics lab in academics will tell you they have open positions. We have open positions. We can't find people. We can't find people in academics because industry pays better, and they snatch them up. So I there are a lot of positions open for people who have skill sets in data analytics, including bioinformatics. Yeah. And I would say the magic buzzword seemingly for the last few years has been machine learning, right? So get some machine learning experience. I had one of my last PhD students is now working for the Naval Research Lab in Washington, D.C. He did eDNA at the Smithsonian's Tropical Research Station in Panama, sampling mangroves and beaches and open water and coral reefs, sequencing eDNA. And, it's a very basic kind of biology exploratory study, but he did some really nice analyses using machine learning techniques. And he had 2 job offers, not postdoc job offers, one from NOAA in California and the other one from NRL in Washington, D.C. And he decided to accept the NRL one. And they both, highlighted his machine learning skill sets as the skill set that they were specifically targeting. So, as you can develop as academics programming that includes some exposure to machine learning techniques and analyzing data with those kinds of techniques. Students, if you can pick up those techniques either at your university or there are tons of workshops or through internships, right? Get those skill sets, then you'll be exceptionally marketable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marketable. Marketable. Have you heard the word?
Yes.
Just like Felix was telling, you have to be marketable. And as Greg has said in the morning, there's a bunch of workshops. Even YouTube, they have videos that show you how to start working with the tools. Don't be afraid of working with the tools and explore the tools. It's just like someone said this morning, just like taking time to learn piano or a new language. Just take the time to learn bioinformatics. And it's an added value, definitely. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Crandall, for your insight and for sharing your experience with us. Now, this is more for the panelists. Do you guys want to stop the first set of questions and answer session for a moment so that each of you can tell us about your careers, or do you prefer to keep it going with things as they are? And
whatever you prefer.
maybe we can start with Dr. Durillis if you want, if that's okay. Your mic is muted.
In the meantime, I have an answer for Jorge Martinez's question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice regarding a PhD, postdoc, or job hunting, what would it be? sometimes I think about it. Yeah, sometimes I think about it. Uh, yeah, don't sacrifice your personal life too much. That's my advice. Especially, I mean, I was a graduate student, I was a mom, I was going to the field to Venezuela, where I spent months while my baby was in Puerto Rico. So emotionally, I was living a very, very hard life during my postdoc. So if it was today, perhaps I wouldn't sacrifice those moments because I cannot live them again. So that's my advice. Career is a very good. You have to focus on your career. Of course, you have, but personal life is also very valuable, and sometimes we lose our focus a little bit and we sacrifice a lot. And that's, if I was going to give you an advice, yeah, enjoy the ride, but don't make hard choices.
I'd say keep your mind open and be very open to taking a curve in your career path, because as you go, you learn new things and or new interesting things come pop up and new opportunities that may not be exactly on your well you thought it would be your career, but it's a good opportunity and you might want to swerve that way.
Do you have access to my PowerPoint? You can share it. You can share it here. For some reason, I can't share here. It is saying that I should go to the setting of my.
Maybe.
Yeah, I go to the bottom left. I go. I share. It say that can't share screen because it looks like we can't share your screen right now.
I have it here. Do you want me to share it?
If
I have it.
If you can share it, will be fine. The three-story PowerPoint.
Yep. All right. You can share my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
We can see it.
We can see it. Okay, good. Yes, and let me start. So I know already I'm Junel Derilus. I'm a APHL Bioinformatics Fellow. That means I'm paid by APHL, Association of Public Health Laboratories, and I am hosted by CDC, specifically Department of Parasitic Disease and Malaria branch. And I'm originally from Haiti. Next. And about me, I get my bachelor degree at Université d'État d'Haïti, University State of Haiti, and I get a master degree in the microbial ecology at the University of Puerto Rico, specifically in the Department of Environmental Sciences. I get my a PhD in microbial ecology also with the Department of Environmental Sciences at the University of Puerto Rico, and currently I am an APHL postdoc bioinformatics fellow. Next. About my research experience, it is quite short since I'm a young postdoc fellow. And during most of my studies, most of my graduate studies, I was trying to use bioinformatics to do genomics and metagenomic studies. Genomic studies while trying to understand the structure, the function, and evolution of genomes using the comparative genomics approach. And the other part of my research experience was to do metagenomic studies where I try to understand the different factors that shape the microbial community structure in different environments. Based on my experience, when I was in Haiti in my bachelor degree, I did have even experience in research when I start my master degree. So I was introduced to the bioinformatics. So this is the first time probably I hear this word and I say, okay, good, bioinformatics. So it is just computational biology using a computer to understand different biological patterns, specifically using analyze high throughput sequencing data sets. And I didn't even have class in bioinformatics. I was introduced by Chime that Dr. Capuraso just come to present so far. And I say, okay, I want to learn bioinformatics. It is good because I can do my thesis in my room. I can do my thesis in a coffee shop. I think this is a good start for me. Let me try to do it. And I learn this Chime tutorial. And this is why I start learning bioinformatics. And I learn other tools like basic Linux, basic command line Linux, and Python in R. And finally, I started doing my career in bioinformatics. So my thesis, specifically my master thesis, was a functional characterization and functional and the metagenomic characterization of an anaerobic bioreactor. Try to see what are the factors that shape the dynamics and the structure of a microbial community of a salt of a seawater bioreactor that was fed with sargassum with algae. And from here, after doing my master degree, where I published a paper in this work, I learned the basic skill. I say, okay, I want complete. I want to continue to try to do this work during my PhD. During my PhD, I was working on the genomics and metagenomics of marine photosynthetic eukaryote. Marine photosynthetic eukaryotes, they are likely the smallest fully living eukaryotic life on Earth, and their reductions of cell size is associated with a reduction in genome size. So I was interested in doing my PhD to see what are the evolutionary factors that shape the genome size reduction of marine photosynthetic eukaryote, and trying also to understand the global distribution of those using specifically using CHIME and the different or the computational approach just to see a global diversity of marine photosynthetic eukaryotes. I think these PhD theses, I get two papers, they are published. If you want to get an idea about this work, you can get an idea of it in my research get, you can get the papers. Next. My current research activities right now at CDC. So how I came at CDC first. When I was trying to apply for the postdoc, it is good to know that I was basically when I was in Haiti, I was always interested to do public health. It was impossible. After doing my PhD, my master degree, I was trying to apply to medical science to see if I can do a PhD in public health. Oh my goodness, I have to pay a lot of money. So where there is money, I can't be here. Okay, I do my PhD and I use a lot of bioinformatics tools to understand genomics, genome structure, and metagenome structure and different aspects. And I say, okay, I will lose the opportunity to do a study in public health, but right now I think the tools that I learned, they could be applied everywhere. As Dobzhansky say, nothing makes sense in biology except in the light of evolution. We can understand that right now during this era, nothing makes sense in biology except in the light of bioinformatics. So we have to use bioinformatics to understand DNA, to understand the genome, to understand, because everything is DNA, is the key of biology. So okay, so I decided to apply to several postdoc, and most of the postdoc were oriented to medical genomics, and I applied. I was accepted in several postdoc, and finally I get this one for CDC, and I accepted. So when I get to this postdoc, I was in the entomology branch, and incredibly, I don't know even how many. I don't have background in entomology, but I have some background in bioinformatics and genomics. Even though I don't know how many legs we have in the mosquitoes, but finally, I started working on these, and my lab is interested to the surveillance and trying to understand the different mechanisms that affect that shape insecticide resistance in different disease vectors, specifically malaria vector, dengue vector. Right now, I am performing a lot of comparative genomics and transcriptomic analysis to identify potential candidate genes marker responsible of insecticide resistance in Anopheles arabiensis, Anopheles albimanus, and Gumby and Aedes aegypti. Currently, I'm working for some data sets in Puerto Rico where we are trying to understand the insecticide resistance mechanisms of Aedes aegypti in Puerto Rico. And this is one of my main work I'm doing right now at CDC. And we are working with data from different countries in Africa. And I am providing also bioinformatics training to external collaborators in the analysis of high throughput sequencing. And as you can see, my English is not quite so good. When I came to do from Haiti to do my studies at Puerto Rico, I didn't speak neither English nor Spanish. And right now at CDC, they are just using my skill in French and Spanish just to give training to people in Africa, in Senegal, in Benin. It looks like I give more, since I CDC, I speak more French than English because most of my training I'm giving them in French. Since I'm in Atlanta, I'm giving training to guys in Benin, in Senegal, and other African French speaking country in Africa. And my future plans. So I feel in love for bioinformatics of public health. I hope to continue working as a public health bioinformatician at CDC. Finger crossed. I hope it will be, and if it is not, I hope I will have something better. And for future, I hope to create a human resource platform just to provide bioinformatics support to graduate students and labs in their research projects. So this is all for me. And next, Filipa, I think, yeah, it is just a merci beaucoup and thank you very much to everyone. If you have any question, I can respond after that.
Thank you, Dr. Durilis. If anyone has questions, you can use the chat or you can use the grab the mic icon to join us here in the screen. Um, Maybe Dr. Santiago can share the screen or be preparing.
Sure. Let me see if I can actually share the screen here.
And I'm going to be
Or,
watching Dr. Santiago because I know a little about Dr. Santiago. See, he's telling the truth or not.
Let's see how is she here. Okay, let me see if I can. Yeah, let me share. Oh, I can't share the screen. No, I have the same issue. I can't. So the privacy thing, I can't share the screen. Can you? Do you have my slides, Felipe? I think I sent you my slides by email.
I can certainly
I can send it to you real quick. Don't worry.
Yeah.
If now you can use the board behind you, that helps.
That's all this stuff. Let me just send it to you real quick.
Yeah, I didn't get them.
I sent you I just sent it to you. So so I can go ahead and start. So I'm naturally from Puerto Rico, from Guaynabo. I went to school, so I did my bachelor's degree at University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. I graduated in 2002 from microbiology. From there, I was recruited to go to Thomas Jefferson University, where I eventually started a PhD program. What started to be microbiology, then later fused with the immunology department, and later became immunology in microbial pathogenesis. So my thesis work was based on mostly immunology, looking into the innate immune response to Strongyloides sarcoralis. That was my thesis work. But as I get to my third year, yeah, by the end of my third year, I hit a wall with my research. I had a lot of trouble with my research there. There was a problems with it from data, some prior data that didn't actually quite add up from a postdoc that was there. So, and another senior student was graduating. She was having a really hard time trying to find a job in that field. So I decided to cut my losses and I said, you know what, it's time to move on, get into a different field of work. I like this field of work very much, but I'd rather go into something more modern science, more into the molecular field. So I gathered everything I had. I defended a master's thesis instead. And then I came back to Puerto Rico. But as I was still in Philadelphia and Jefferson, I attended every tropical medicine meeting there was. But instead of going to the parasitology sessions, I was going to the dengue sessions. I like that field much more. Oh, there you go. Great. So when I was going to all these dengue sessions, I started talking to every dengue investigator there was there, especially the one from Puerto Rico. Where I met the epidemiologist of the state by the time, the head of the epidemiology department here on the CDC by the time. Everybody knew me by name. Because every year I attended that meeting, every year I stalked them everywhere in that meeting. So when the time it came to when I graduated Jefferson, I just emailed them and listen, I'm looking for a job. What do you got there? And I immediately got a response back, like, come down to Puerto Rico, we'll find something for you. So I became a regular fellow in 2005 here in Puerto Rico. Basically, my job was as a research assistant doing just routine diagnostics, diagnostic testing, PCR work for dengue virus, and I loved it. I mean, I left everything that had to do with parasitology, everything that had to do with cellular immunology at the time, and moved on to viruses. Worked with dengue virus diagnostics. So I was regular fellow for about a year, and then I became an ORISE fellow. So there was a big bump in pay and opportunities. By the time as I'm working here, my boss at the time, Jorge Munoz is still my boss, offered me the opportunity to do some research here for host immune response to dengue virus, doing molecular work as well. And then I was offered the opportunity also to transfer a lot of my credits and continue my PhD work, of course, in a different field here, the Recinto de America School of Medicine here in Puerto Rico. So I joined the school in 2008 and already had a project going. We had a postdoc here that was working on genomics for dengue virus. So it was the first one doing that work, but she left the work halfway through. And my boss told me, listen, it's a great opportunity for you, even though I had nothing to do with genomics at the time. They told me, listen, you can take this opportunity to learn bioinformatics, learn genomics. Nobody here knows anything about that, so that's all on you. And you can do your PhD work on that, bringing new stuff here, and let's see where the road takes you. So I did. So I kept my job. So I had a full-time job, and I was doing everything, all the taking courses and learning bioinformatics on my own personal time. It's like having two jobs. So I started doing that in 2008. I attended some classes at university, then I came back to work, and, work mad hours. Then I became an associate service fellow, which is something sort of like almost like a permanent employee for the government here at the CDC. I was doing a lot of diagnostic testing, but then I started designing tests. So now I'm not only performing the tests, but actually developing new tests for dengue virus. And then I had the experience to go through an epidemic. First, we went through the dengue epidemic. Then we had a chikungunya epidemic. I had the opportunity to study a new virus coming into the region, which is pretty exciting for a virologist. And then a lot of moved up the ladder here at the CDC here, developing the tools for diagnostics, and then I started going to the genomics. And my current position now, so I lead a group of people here that also do molecular diagnostic testing, but we design a lot of tests for dengue diagnostics, and we do a lot of genomics. So recently we moved into Zika with the Zika epidemics, and then we did some COVID work, which has been very exciting. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. Can you have the next slide, please? So overall, I've been about this month 16 years with the CDC. Under that, I've had in terms of my achievements, I have two invention reports and one U.S. patent. We developed here the dengue real-time PCR, which is the first and only molecular diagnostic test that is approved by the FDA permanently for diagnosis of dengue in humans. And we did the invention of the triplex test, which is the Zika test that was used mostly around the world and in the US for the diagnosis of Zika during the epidemic, and it's still widely used around the world. The CDC produces these kits, and we distribute these kits around the world, and all that was designed here when I was leading those investigations. I have about 38 publications there right now. I mentored and I coached 5 students, 4 master's degree students and 1 PhD student, and also I had the opportunity to do a lot of on-site training in many areas of the world. Before the epidemic, I had an opportunity to, for example, to train people in molecular diagnostics with Zika and dengue in the Philippines and Myanmar and Nigeria. I had a couple more trips planned, but of course the pandemic ruined everything out. So next slide, please. So in terms of my current research, well, I have 2 main research. So we have to be Swiss Army knives here. We run routine diagnostics for a couple different surveillance projects that the CDC runs here in the dengue branch. We're looking into in terms of research per se, genomics research, we're looking into the emergence of dengue 1 in Puerto Rico. The dengue 1 circulated for a long time, and then it went away for some reason that we really don't understand. And then in 2019 it came back, so we're trying to understand why did it came back, where did it come from, and what's the problem with it, or what's causing this. What is the scenario once we had a Zika circulation in Puerto Rico? Does it help shape and anything the evolution of the virus here? And the other one is some opportunity that jumped in back in March of 2020. Proud to say we were the first ones to implement any PCR testing for COVID in Puerto Rico. We were the first ones to do that here. We established testing immediately as soon as we had the governor announce that we had first cases of COVID here in Puerto Rico. So we jumped in and we established PCR testing here. And we helped the PRDH. We have a very tight relationship with the PRDH.
There I was working in the purification of proteins, transmembrane protein, which require, passing through a chromatography, then doing crystallization, travel to Chicago National Laboratory to diffract crystals. And during my PhD study, I was able to have two grants, RISE Fellowship and AMP. And here I was able to start learning about the industry. I was able to meet people from the industry and start deciding for myself which career I wanted. During my fourth year of the PhD, I decided to take a risk and went to a temporary job at Paul Industry in Fajardo, where I was living at the time, while my wife was doing the PhD. So I decided let my wife be the academy and let me be the industry, so we don't have all the eggs in one basket, just as a precaution. And also, I recently have a daughter by that time, so I decided let me then, get a job and get money while my wife was completing the PhD, because I knew that in her field she was able to complete it faster. In my field, the students that were around me were taking like 8 to 10 years to finish the PhD. So I didn't want that for my career. So I decided to go to a temporary work at the bottom in a quality control laboratory in Paul Life Sciences. And here you will find that where was I learned that having a science background can help you in every position that you work on. Even though a quality control lab you do every time the same thing, I was able to look at the science and improve process. I was able to say, why are we doing this every day when the science tell me that we can do it in 1 week, and that way we save money and we save time. So that's when I start doing applying what I learned during all my research years in the academy. And then I was able to move to another complete different laboratory in Amgen. I was able to go to work in a forensic labs, which is we have to do CIC job, a forensic job where we have to find out which was the particle that we found in our products. So that's something that I didn't knew anything about, but I was able to also learn. And then I received a call from Paul. Here in Amgen, I was also a temporary worker. So I was able to get a full-time work at Paul. They called me and asked me to come back. So I have to thank the science because of my job that I did previously. It paid tributes. So I was able to go back at Amgen. And during that time, I was also working in the quality control lab again. But I was able to be recommended to a leadership program, which was a rotational program in this Paul. And I was able to go work in different areas like supply chain, planner, scheduler, science. So then I decided when I was doing this rotational program that I wanted to go to supply chain because it was something different and I want to learn something new. So there I was able to work as a scheduler for the manufacturing plant, where I was in charge of the product, the time, everything. And then when I was, doing it very well in that position, I received a call from Amgen that they have a scientific position in the purification laboratory, which is basically my background in my graduate studies where I was purifying protein. So they gave me an offer, and I went back to Amgen. In between, I was doing also a master's degree for business, an MBA in project management, because that was aligned with the career path that I was taking in Paul. I wanted to do more in the business side. But then again, I went back to science in Amgen. And here I was able to work in project to improve, the step yield, to reduce cost of manufacturing, solve any issue that the commercial plant had. For example, let's say sometimes they have something with the pH of the buffer, and they say what will happen with the protein. So we have to do the analysis, like the PI, the isolation point, and stuff like that. So it was very science based. And then currently this year I was promoted to senior associate scientist, where I'm been keeping doing the same job. However, now I'm going to be a mentor to co-op students from the university that are going to start Amgen as a rotational students. So that's basically my career. As you can see, I've been changing from fields. I like to move from the comfort zone, as I mentioned, and that's something that I encourage everyone to do. Take the risk, learn something new, so you can build your brand as we were mentioning before in your resume. So I think that's all that I have currently. I think at the end I have some advice that I learned in my career. If you're in the academy and you want to evaluate your options, so you have to do a pros and cons. So talk to the people, talk to your mentor, to friends that can give you a little insight. Get out of your comfort zone, as you can see in my career. Invest in yourself. Always try to learn new things. When I was in Paul, I was able to use my own money to learn new things. I was able to pay for certifications. And for me, the best advice that I learned during my industry years is learn about behaviors. For example, politically correct is something that we use here very much. That was something very hard for me to learn. So I think that's basically all my presentation. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to talk to me.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their careers, experiences, and advices. I think we can continue on to the second set of questions and answer session about the panelist career, graduate school, or postdoc opportunities. I don't know if Dr. Mariano wants to read the Roberto
Yes,
Diaz
like,
question.
I think we can go back. I think we can go back first to Jorge Martinez's question because only Filipa
Oh,
provided
yes.
the advice. So,
Yes.
what will be your advice, Gilberto, Dionel, and Joel, if you were to go back and give an advice to your younger self?
Well, I think I covered a little bit of this before. I said something about keeping your mind open and being um, basically just look into every opportunity that presents and be open to new roads that can open up. And there's a lot of things that can open up. And I started my career at CDC. I learned about so many different jobs are out there, so many different opportunities, so many different roads that I didn't know. And I actually have been changing my road since I started. I started out as a parocytologist and became a virologist and doing a lot of molecular biology, but then I moved into genomics and bioinformatics. So it's about keeping your mind open, exploring new opportunities. That's a key.
And Joel and Dionel, you're muted.
What was the question? I was the question.
I-
What was the question?
If you were to go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Okay, why will do it just a question of doing first? I am highly interested in a successful graduate studies when you are doing, because this is the key. The younger try to be successful. The key way to be successful is try to maintain the high concentration and motivation. And I think always graduate study is not something that is quite easy, and it is always good to have very good motivation and concentration and sanity. So I think it was Joel just come to mention is the behavior. I think the emotional intelligence is the key. Any kind of things, even when you are doing your graduate studies, when you are looking for a job, when you are doing the job, sometimes the IQ is not the most important, but the emotional intelligence, how you behave is the key. How you behave with your partner, how you behave with your key, how you deal with the mentor, how you will be with your lab mates, how you deal with your supervisor. They are the key. Try to always the humanism. Try to get the key communications with good communications with the peers. I think is the key. And I think for doing my success, I was specifically for my career. You can see when I start in Puerto Rico, I didn't speak in English, I didn't speak Spanish, and I had to do a master and a PhD. The first time, if you ask me, what is your name? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? Iba a decir yes. ¿Dónde tú vives? Yes. Porque no entendí casi nada. Pero cuando yo entré en el laboratorio, yo dije a mi profesor, yo quiero hacer una maestría, yo salgo de Haití, yo hablo creol, yo hablo francés, no hablo nada de español e inglés, ¿qué yo voy a hacer? Él me dice, solamente tiene la voluntad. Ok, yo tengo la voluntad, si es por eso yo tengo eso demasiado. Y rápidamente yo combino la voluntad que tenía y la oportunidad que me dieron, y yo sigo para adelante y tratando de aprender vocabularios con mi mentor, con mi compañero de laboratorios, y así que yo fuera para adelante. Mi consejo para los estudiantes, yo quiero decir que la ciencia posee inmensos caminos de muchas incertidumbres. A veces nosotros visualizamos algo durante nuestro proceso de investigación, nuestra carrera, en un abrir de ojo, todo se cambia. Lo más importante como jóvenes, como estudiantes, investigadores, es no perder la cordura, la concentración y la motivación, y desarrollar un amor fuerte para lo que estamos haciendo. Aunque no lo amabas antes, desarrolla amor, enamórate de la ciencia, enamórate de eso, finalmente tú vas a ver, todo va bien. Si tú te enamoras, aunque no lo amas, a veces tú entras en el laboratorio y el profesor te dice, vamos a hacer este proyecto. Tú te dices, ¿qué es esto? Dios mío. Tienes que hacerlo, papá, y te mete, hay que desarrollar el amor. Cuando tú te enamoras, tú vas a ver que es la mejor cosa que hacer. Y yo deseo a todos los estudiantes, los jóvenes, de desarrollar amor para lo que está haciendo y saber que todo es posible si hay la voluntad.
Sí, sin duda que ese es el mejor consejo. Hay que disfrutar lo que estás haciendo. Si no disfrutas, estás infeliz, no vas a ningún lado. O sea, ese es el mejor advice. Y yo pegando un poco en lo que decía Joel en la última parte de su presentación, en que él invirtió parte de su economía para formarse. Y eso me acuerdo cuando yo estaba buscando un postdoc. Yo estaba escribiendo mi grant de NSF. Era financiada por NSF durante mi PhD. Y obviamente NSF no pagaba vuelos internacionales. Y había un meeting que yo quería ir a conocer mi próximo mentor de mi postdoc, que era Phil Hugenholz, que en aquel entonces estaba empezando a salir el database de Green Genes. Él era como hacía annotations de taxonomía de las bacterias y era como, tú sabes, ese científico famoso que tú quieres conocer. Yo dije, tengo que ir al meeting de ISME, Australia, para conocerlo. Y le voy a presentar mi proyecto para que sea mi mentor. Y así fue. Y lo pagué con mis chavos de mis ahorros, porque no había becas para irme a Australia. Y es un poco ese, tratar de no pensar tanto en la plata, y eso es un poco las generaciones nuevas también están un poco enfocadas a, tú sabes, el trabajo que da más dinero, el dinero no lo es todo. O sea, hay tantas cosas maravillosas que tú ganas en la ciencia, el contacto con los jóvenes, estar haciendo cosas diferentes todos los días, el disfrutar este amor que Dionel nos acaba de mencionar es lo más importante, incluso para perseverar en las carreras académicas. Y hay alguien que hizo una pregunta que yo creo que esa es la respuesta, ¿no? No recuerdo Roberto Díaz dice, are there any tips that you would give to your students to make the most out of their graduate studies? Yeah, don't focus in the end. Don't think about the end product. Don't think that you want to graduate in 2 months just because you have to, right? You know, get the most out of your project. Get the papers published. Enjoy the ride. That's the most amazing advice.
Yeah, I would agree.
You forgot to talk about Humberto and the built environment.
Yeah,
Dionel made great contributions to the built environment here in the Caribbean as
excellent.
well.
Humberto está por aquí.
Estaba por aquí por la mañana. Not sure
Sí,
if
por la
he's
mañana,
there.
yeah. I would
I think
agree
it's also-
with
sorry.
Filipa. We don't learn with the product. We learn in the process. The product doesn't give us pretty much nothing. And if going back to Mr. Martinez's question, if I would give advice to my younger self, would have been to be able to differentiate passion versus purpose and happiness versus joy. If I would have known the difference between those passion and purpose and joy versus happiness, it would have been a much easier path. So passion can fade away very easily, but purpose has a stronger meaning. We give something to the world in the purpose. Passion is something that we get. So we could be passionate about painting, but that not necessarily would be meaningful to the planet or to the world of the society. And happiness, we know happiness is a chemical reaction. joy is a very long-lasting effect. So that aligns with Dionel's love advice.
Definitely. I think one of the things I enjoy most about my career is that in public health here at the CDC, of course, I mean, we know that government is not the best paying institution or organization, but it's extremely rewarding working for public health and knowing that your work has an immediate impact on the community that you serve. I mean, in our case, we have been able to impact Puerto Rico directly, and knowing that, you know, in our case specifically, that everyone here in Puerto Rico was being diagnosed with the kits that you invented, the assays that you invented. The assays you invented are being distributed worldwide. And you go to different places around the world and they know you by name or last name because they know your work, because you develop the test that they are using and you resolve public health issues, which make a great impact in the terms of public health, in terms of genomics or diagnostics. That's extremely rewarding.
Yo quería mencionar algo, ¿verdad? Lo voy a hacer en español porque es un tema que, pues, que todos, aunque sea de una manera u otra, lo han mencionado. Y es que, pues, ponerle más prioridad quizás a la vida personal, que es lo que eventualmente, pues, no solo, pues, como dijo la doctora, el dinero no genera necesariamente felicidad. Pero yo creo que es un problema más del sistema, por lo menos en Puerto Rico, ¿verdad? No conozco de sistemas de Estados Unidos, pero en Puerto Rico nos entrenan a vivir para trabajar. Los mentores, pues, los profesores pretenden que uno pues esté ahí todo el tiempo porque te tienes que graduar, tienes que hacer 3 experimentos por semana, tienes que hacer libreta, tienes que someter el abstract. Entonces, esa vida que claro, es necesario para uno poder sobresalir, uno poder ser exitoso en la ciencia, pero te entrenan para eso, te entrenan para, pues, para trabajar muchísimo y después ya uno está en ese pace y uno está acostumbrado a hacerlo de esa manera que es difícil quitar ese ciclo vicioso que tenemos y que crea o que lleva a que nosotros le demos más importancia o le dediquemos mucho más tiempo a nuestro trabajo que a nuestras propias familias, especialmente cuando son estudiantes que se hospedan, que no ven a su familia más que los fines de semana, y cuidado porque pues muchas veces no la pueden ver porque tienen mucho trabajo, tienen experimentos que se tienen que trabajar en fin de semana, que, ¿verdad? Que nos ha pasado. Y pues hay mentores que entienden eso, hay mentores que no entienden que cada estudiante también debe tener una vida personal, debe tener una vida para relajarse, aunque sea un día en semana. Y nos han criado, como quien dice, porque esto es como una crianza educativa, nos han criado a hacer eso, a darle más importancia al dinero, al standing, al trabajo, a las publicaciones, que a nuestra misma o a nuestra propia salud mental.
Eso
Sí,
es bien importante.
Sí, lo que dice es cierto y es importante, y por eso les digo siempre a los estudiantes que hay que nurture esta relación entre el mentor y el mentee para haber esta humanidad, ¿verdad? En la vida académica, porque y ser una familia para allá de la ciencia, eso es muy importante, y eso también hay que trabajar ¿verdad? Cada uno tiene que hacer su trabajo, los estudiantes y los profesores, definitivo, tienes toda la razón. Pero entonces la solución en ese caso es que tú mismo desarrolles tus métodos para mantener, como dice Dionel, la sanidad y que te permitan ser feliz, porque este es tu trabajo, es el trabajo que tú escogiste, es el trabajo que uno elige para el resto de la vida, ¿verdad? La ciencia va a acompañarnos el resto de la vida y hay que buscar esa gratificación. Y como dice Gilberto ahorita, tú estás contribuyendo a conocimiento, estás contribuyendo con soluciones para la calidad de vida de las personas. Al mismo tiempo estás entrenando a los estudiantes, estás contribuyendo a la sociedad para que la sociedad tenga más valor añadido, que haya más gente que esté dispuesta a trabajar por el bien común. Y todo eso, todas esas cosas son las que te tienen que, ¿verdad? Adocicar, dar azúcar al corazón. Pero definitivamente hay que sacar tiempo para todo. Y hablando de microbioma, que el tema principal es el microbioma, hay que sacar tiempo para nutrir nuestro microbioma de la mejor manera, tener una dieta saludable, para salir afuera. Recuerden lo de Kerry Kinney. We have to go out we have to exercise, we have to eat fibers and probiotics, we have to have time for ourselves. Aunque sea muy difícil, y los que están conmigo lo ven, uno tiene demasiados hats, está haciendo todo el tiempo y llega un momento en que tu salud dice caput. Hasta ahí llegamos. Entonces es muy importante tener ese equilibrio y a pesar de que es difícil, ¿verdad? Los mentores estamos aquí para darles una mano y darles tips de cómo manejarlo.
Sí, una de las soluciones que yo siempre menciono a los estudiantes es que hay que pulir los valores, nuestros valores, principios y caracteres. Cuando tenemos los valores bien pulidos es bien fácil. Vamos a decirlo más conservativo, se hace menos difícil. Tomar decisiones y decirle no a las personas, que las personas entiendan que no yo te dije no porque yo no quiero, es que yo tengo, mis valores me dicen que no puedo hacer eso. Pero cuando no tenemos los valores pulidos, a veces las demás personas se aprovechan porque podemos como que moldearnos hacia la dirección de la otra persona. Así que es bien importante siempre reflexionar los valores, sacar una vez al mes o 2 veces al mes cuáles son mis valores. Por ejemplo, mis valores ética, integridad, humildad. Porque yo estoy seguro que uno no quisiera ser un amigo de un criminal, porque eso va en contra de tus valores. O sea, muchas cosas en nuestra vida, en nuestro trabajo, tienen que estar los valores. A nuestra profesión tiene que estar alineada a unos valores con los cuales uno se identifica. De lo contrario, uno no la va a pasar bien en ese trabajo.
Sí, y a veces es difícil porque pues, en el caso de los estudiantes graduados pues nos vemos quizás un poco más cohibidos por miedo a que pues, nos caigan algunas consecuencias o cosas de las que nos vamos a arrepentir maybe toda la vida o que nos afecten académicamente, etcétera. Pues, porque así es la vida, es como dicen, ¿verdad? Uno a veces decide callar algunas cosas.
No, eso es bien fácil, María. Hay que conocer el sistema. Conocer el sistema. Si tú conoces el sistema, pues ya tú sabes que unas decisiones que tú tomes van a estar protegidas por el sistema. Y no va a haber nadie que pueda tomar represalia en contra de ti porque tú estás tomando decisiones que se alinean con las reglas del sistema. En este caso,
Sí,
UPR o el
es
recinto.
bien importante, es lo que dice Fari, es bien importante. Mira, hay etapas, en la carrera hay etapas. Y las etapas al principio siempre son fuertes. No importa cuál etapa sea, siempre al principio es fuerte. Y es un training exercise. Esto de trabajar muchas horas, amanecerse estudiando, hacerse experimentos, es una etapa de training. Es una etapa de entrenamiento que te ayuda a ti a organizarte. Es muy necesaria en tu training académico, como profesional, como investigador. Es lo que te ayuda a ti a luego tener las herramientas para más adelante poder tomarte el tiempo y manejar tu trabajo y tu vida personal de una forma más eficiente. Y es bien necesario pasar por eso al principio. No es que vamos a verlo relax al principio, porque no terminamos. La carrera académica es bien larga, es indefinida y es difícil por esa parte, es bien drenante. Pero si aprendemos a organizarnos desde el principio, como dice Félix, conocer el sistema es bien importante. Yo tuve la oportunidad de entrar al sistema de la universidad cuando entré a la graduada, conociendo bien el sistema. Y pude sentarme con el comité y decirle, este es mi proyecto, este es el principio y este es el fin. Esta es la forma que se va a medir mi progreso y aquí está demostrado la estructura de mi proyecto. Y de esa manera no tengo mucho espacio para bandearme ni que se puedan agarrarse de aquí. Así yo tengo principio y fin porque yo lo diseñé y está bien estructurado. Si pierdes estructura, pierdes el camino y por ahí mismo pierdes la disciplina. Esa disciplina es bien importante mantenerla. Pero llegas a un punto en tu carrera donde vas a tener un balance. Aquí hay una pregunta de José Pérez Pagan que pregunta sobre la diferencia de lifestyle differences, ¿verdad? Entre CDC o Federal Government y la industria y la academia. En CDC, sé que muchos trabajos, normalmente se trabaja de 8 a 5, excepto cuando tenemos epidemias que requieren más tiempo, algún deadline, que tenemos que trabajar por alguna emergencia de salud, que tiene que hacer, pero por lo general uno trata de mantener ese horario regular de trabajo. Pero eso no significa que uno se queda aquí a veces con las cosas dando vueltas y se va a su casa y prende la computadora y contesta unos emails y hace una presentación para adelantarlo, y uno tiene que tener esa disciplina de conectarse de vez en cuando.
Gracias a todos. Thank you all for your advices, sharing your experiences. I don't know if Dr. Gonzalez want to say something or anyone else.
Yo no pude escuchar, ¿me escuchan ahora?
Yes.
Yo no pude escuchar ahorita, me hicieron alguna pregunta a la que no pude contestar.
No, yo creo que estamos ya en la etapa del work-life balance, el balance entre la vida y lo que es la carrera de uno.
Sí.
Y los tips que puedas tener para tú que eres papá y estás en la industria, casaste con un científico, ¿cuál es tu input en términos del balance de la vida, ¿verdad? Vuestra vida familiar con vuestra carrera.
Pues mira, en la industria al principio fue bien difícil, ¿verdad? Porque uno está compitiendo, ¿verdad? Se escucha mal, ¿verdad? Pero uno compite con sus compañeros, así que uno tiene que tratar de gastar muchas horas de su vida. Así que al principio mi work-life balance fue prácticamente inexistente, ¿verdad? Pero a medida que ya me he dado a reconocer y he demostrado cositas, pues ya he podido entonces tomar la decisión de, mira, esto no lo tengo que hacer hoy, lo puedo dejar para mañana. Esas son cosas que he ido aprendiendo, ¿verdad? Poco a poco en el tiempo. Que el mundo no se va a caer, ¿verdad? Si uno hace una tarea hoy. Así que mi consejo es ese, que vayan poco a poco, ir aprendiendo si realmente algo tiene que hacerse hoy o se puede dejar para mañana. Cuestión de que le puedas dedicar entonces el tiempo adecuado a lo que son los hijos, la familia, etcétera.
Es hacerse la pregunta, ¿esto tiene que hacer, como tú acabas de decir, ¿eso se tiene que hacer hoy o no? O
Sí.
estoy en el mejor momento para hacer esto, porque si acaso, a veces yo le digo a mis estudiantes, si tú llegas a las 3 de la tarde, no te pongas a extraer DNA porque es viernes por la noche y te empieza a tocar el teléfono, vamos al cine. Dejas las muestras y te vas, olvídate, no haces ese día, lo haces el otro. Hay que organizarse, pensar en el tiempo que tardan los experimentos y lo que es lo que tú tienes que hacer. Y si ya tienes compromisos personales, pues paciencia. Pero, ¿verdad? Todo tiene sus objetivos. Si tu objetivo es graduarte en un año o en 2 meses, pues la actitud tiene que ser diferente. Pero definitivamente, como decía tanto Félix como Gilberto, no me olvidé, de repente. Me estaba mirando a ver si me equivocaba.
Te estaba mirando.
No. Como ellos decían, hay que conocer el sistema. Y obviamente el comité de tesis es un grupo, ¿verdad?, que apoya al estudiante. El estudiante escogió, eso es muy importante, el estudiante escogió gente que sabe que lo puede apoyar, que es testigo de su compromiso, porque la propuesta de tesis es un acuerdo entre ambas partes, ¿verdad? Y van a hacer todo lo posible para que tú llegues al final cumpliendo tu contrato, ¿verdad?, cumpliendo tu plan de trabajo. Y es como decía Félix, todo se resuelve. Desde que tú estés seguro que lo que tú estás haciendo es lo que te divierte, lo que te da alegría, lo que te da... Yo tengo, ya estoy en los 40, yo tengo 41 años y todavía me despierto con una alegría loca por hacer lo que estoy haciendo. Y eso es muy gratificante. Y eso es lo que ustedes como estudiantes tienen que buscar. ¿Cuál es my life's desire? ¿Qué es lo que what moves me? Right? Y esto es lo que yo creo que es la gran, ¿verdad? El big quest, en nosotros descubrir qué es lo que realmente nos da placer y nos gustaría hacer el resto de la vida. Y a veces tú haces un doctorado y lo que te gusta a ti es hacer fotografía y te vas al final a hacer fotógrafo de National Geographic y tienes un PhD en microbiología. You know? Yo tengo un montón de colegas, como les decía en Portugal, que ellos se gradúan con más papers que nosotros porque los PhDs no tienen curso graduado, son de 3 años y tú te gradúas directamente, haces tus experimentos y te gradúas con 4 o 5 papers. Y la mayoría de mis colegas están trabajando en otras cosas. Son editores, tienen programas de ciencia en la televisión. De hecho, tenemos algunos científicos aquí en Puerto Rico, los de ciencia PR, todos ellos tienen PhD y están haciendo divulgación de ciencia. Tienes a Félix, que es profesor universitario, pero tiene yo creo que su gran pasión es esto, lo que él está haciendo. Él está llevando la ciencia a la comunidad. Así que cada uno de nosotros con el tiempo vamos buscando llenar lo que más nos da placer. Y yo creo que eso es lo que todos deberíamos hacer. Porque la vida es única, es corta Y si no estamos haciendo lo que deseamos y lo que disfrutamos, pues estamos perdiendo el tiempo, ¿verdad?
Definitivo. A veces yo le hago un chiste a los estudiantes, y en particular en Puerto Rico, yo le digo, "No, en Puerto Rico hay tapón casi todos los días, por la mañana y por las tardes. Si cogiendo el tapón tú no llegas alegre al trabajo, no estás en la profesión correcta. Porque si tú estás en la profesión correcta, no importa que haya tapón, porque ya sabes que vas a llegar a algo que te apasiona y que tienes propósito. De lo contrario, pues ya sabes que esa puede ser que no sea la buena opción.
Exactamente. Yo creo que it says, heads up, your event's scheduled to end soon. Así que, Marimar.
Pues nada, en nombre de todos, quiero agradecer primero que nada a todos los panelistas por todo su conocimiento, por sus experiencias, por su tiempo, por ser parte de este Mini-Symposium. También pues quiero agradecer a todos los participantes, los que se unieron en nuestra pantalla para compartir sus experiencias, sus comentarios o sus preguntas con nosotros. Y de verdad, pues sin cada uno de los participantes no hubiera podido ser posible hacer esto y hacerlo de la manera más dinámica como fue, ¿verdad? Que fue más una conversación que ¿verdad? Que una simple charla, por decirlo de cierta manera. Así que gracias por su participación. Espero que hayan tenido, o esperamos que hayan tenido una increíble experiencia, que la hayan pasado muy bien, que hayan aprendido sobre el microbioma, que hayan aprendido sobre cómo aplicar el microbioma a enfermedades humanas, sobre Chime, sobre, ¿verdad? Todos los tipos de temas que tocamos aquí en este mini symposium, que hayan tomado consejos de la escuela graduada, y pues que hayan hecho 2 o 3 conexiones, aunque sea en el lunch break o en el coffee break. Y pues no sé si alguno de los panelistas quiera dejar por ahí su email o su LinkedIn para que las personas lo sigan en las redes y puedan mantener contacto, y así hacemos un tipo de networking para los demás. Así que nada, los voy a dejar ahora con la doctora Godoy para que se despida y entonces culminar con este simposio sobre microbioma.
Muchas gracias, Marimar, y gracias a todos, especialmente gracias a Rice, gracias a Félix y a Vistazo a la Ciencia por producir este mega evento. Gracias a todos ustedes que participaron el día de hoy. Por la mañana me comentaba el doctor Bolaño que tuvimos hasta 100 participantes en la sesión de la mañana aquí en Run the World, pero también tuvimos desde la página web de AAAS que estaba enseñando en directo lo que estaba enseñando Vistazo, así que tenemos, yo creo que cientos de participantes en el día de hoy, así que yo creo que fue muy útil y muy informativo. De nuevo, a nombre de la Escuela de Medicina, del Departamento de Microbiología, ha sido un placer organizar este meeting para ustedes, para que vean que las ciencias son mucho más de lo que, ¿verdad? La microbiología es mucho más de lo que uno piensa, no es, el microbiólogo ya no está detrás del microscopio, el microbiólogo ya está detrás de la computadora. Las salidas de campo, a veces en una salida de campo trabajas 5 años con esa data. La importancia, los estudiantes que están de este lado, la importancia de aprender data analysis, biostatistics, bioinformatics, diferentes lenguajes de computación. Y también a los estudiantes que busquen otros mentores que les puedan apoyar y que les puedan aportar a su vida académica. ¿Okay? Aquí estamos para ayudarlos. Los prospective students, go to our website. The deadline for the PhD and master programs is December 1st. We are eager to receive your applications. Feel free to email me. I'm going to leave my email here as well. Y nada, muchas gracias a todos. Thank you so much, everyone. Felix, you want to wrap up?